Alright, so I'm going to try to prepare a recipe I found online called Big Mac Meatloaf. That sounds amazing. So let's get into this. So I am about to ground up some pork rinds as a binder for the meatloaf in this immersion blender processor thingy. It's actually a grinder. So we're going to just grind up these pork rinds real quick. Now to me it ain't meatloaf without some kind of breadcrumbs in there. So I'm going to mix up some Truffles with almond flour in my food processor, and I'm going to pour it into my Dash Minis. I got two sitting here so I can make up some bread for my meatloaf. First, I'm going to crack open these 3 eggs and put them into the food processor. Next, I'm going to add about a cup to a cup and a half of almond flour. Then I'm just going to blend all that together generously. And I'm going to pour the batter, of course, into the waffle maker. Spread to cover the divots. Try not to overfill because it will make a mess. Alright, cook them till they're done and then set them aside to cool. Okay, there's one. And 2. Now we make 2 more. Okay, my Truffles are now cool to the touch, so I'm just going to break them up and put them in here in my other food grinder. And it made about 6, so we're going to grind up all 6. As you can see, some of them were less than others. Alright, I got about 2 pounds of ground beef here in a mixing bowl. So now we are ready to mix all of our ingredients together. We're going to start with the pork rinds that we ground up earlier and the Truffle breadcrumbs. Now we're going to add 1 egg. Here I'm adding 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of salt. Next, to give it the little onion that you get in a traditional Big Mac, I added some minced onion to the mix. Totally optional. Next, I pour in 2 cups of beef broth. The original recipe calls for Worcestershire sauce, but I like the flavor of beef broth, and plus it has less carbs than Worcestershire, so I substituted this in from the original recipe. After I poured my beef broth in, I just took my hands and I mixed everything together real well to make sure everything was incorporated into the meatloaf. Next, I took half of the meatloaf mixture and I laid it down in the pan that I'm using to cook the meatloaf, and then I layered the top of that meat with slices of American cheese. From there, you take the other half of your meatloaf that you left behind and you layer the top of the cheese with a second layer of the meatloaf mixture. Now it's time to make the Big Mac special sauce. We're going to add 1 cup of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of sweet dill pickle, a half a teaspoon of white wine vinegar, and a tablespoon of mustard. Then we're going to add a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, and a half a teaspoon of paprika. Stir and combine all of that until you get your Big Mac secret sauce, and then put it in the fridge to cool while the meatloaf is cooking. You want to add it after the meatloaf is done. Here's the meatloaf after it come out of the oven. I cut it down the center just to make sure everything was done, and as you can see, the cheese is starting to goo out from the middle. Now remove your mixture from the refrigerator and just top over the top of the meatloaf. So I prepared some other keto-friendly dishes that we were going to have with our meatloaf. What you're looking at here is creamed cauliflower in place of mashed potatoes, some deviled eggs, and a little broccoli with cheese. Now let's eat. Okay, folks, so there's my meatloaf topped with its secret sauce. And there is centerpiece with cheese just going out the side of it. So we have nothing left to do but taste this bad boy. Oh, look at there. That's good. It tastes just like a Big Mac. Now, I'm not sure how this recipe would turn out if you used the Worcestershire sauce, which is what the original recipe calls for. But I felt like adding the beef broth in place of the Worcestershire sauce would really bring out the hamburger taste that you get from McDonald's. And it does its job well. This thing is moist. I have made a lot of, several different keto meatloafs, and they don't turn out this moist. They kind of dry on the inside, dry tasting. Yeah, that tastes like a moist burger, like the kind you get from a restaurant. Watch this. See how moist that is? Not dry, just juicy, good. Yes, this is some good meatloaf right here. Thanks for watching. I hope you try this. Even if you're not on keto, this is still a good recipe. Thanks for watching. If you like this recipe and you'd like to try it for yourself, I got this recipe off of another YouTuber's channel. It is their recipe, they came up with it, and I am going to subscribe to this channel right now. The name of the channel is Catherine Michelle. Thank you, Catherine Michelle. You helped me lose weight online. Low Carb Keto. Link to her channel and the recipe down in the description.